All right, our learning target today is I can write about events and feelings from a story. So you guys started this yesterday with Mrs. Miller, and you guys started doing a lot of writing. You wrote about the who the characters were, the what the characters were doing, the where the characters were at, the when did it happen, and the how are the characters feeling. You wrote about all of that yesterday. We are going to do the exact same thing today. We're going to write about all of these things. So we're going to read another one of our favorites, and it's another Pete the Cat book. It's Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. As I'm reading, I want you to think what you can write about today for your who, your what, your where, your when, and your how. Okay? Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. Pete the Cat put on his favorite shirt with 4 big, colorful, round, groovy buttons. He loved his buttons so much, he sang this song. Here he is. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. Pop! Oh no! One of the buttons popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 1, 2, 3. 3! 4 minus 1 equals 3. Kind of like what we're going to be working on in math. 3. Groovy. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. He's riding on a skateboard. Pop! Oh no! Another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons were left? 1, 2. 2. 3 minus 1 equals 2. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. My buttons, my 2 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 2 groovy buttons. He's got his ice cream here and pop! Oh no, another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 1. 1. 2 minus 1 equals 1. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. My button, my 1 groovy button. My button, my 1 groovy button. Pop! Oh no, the last button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? 0. 1 minus 1 equals 0. Did Pete cry? Goodness no. Buttons come and buttons go. Pete looked down at his buttonless shirt, and what do you think he saw? His belly button! And he kept on singing his song. It's all good. My button, still have my belly button. My button, still have my belly button. I guess it simply goes to show that stuff will come and stuff will go. But do we cry? Goodness no. We keep on singing. It just shows him with all his buttons. Buttons come and buttons go. Okay. So again, our learning target today is I can write about I'm going to start over. I can write about events and feelings from a story. All right, so we're going to be writing about the who, which was Pete the cat. The what was he doing? What was he doing? Pete sang about his buttons. Where were the characters out? Where was he at? Yeah, so he was outside, and when did it happen? Throughout the day, right? And how was he feeling? Well, many times throughout the story it said groovy. So I'm going to say that Pete felt groovy. So I'm going to start with my who and my what. So I'm going to start with Pete the cat Pete the cat sang about his buttons, okay? Pete the cat sang about his buttons. So that's going to be 7 words in my first sentence. So I made a little list of all the popcorn words that we should have learned by now, just to help me have a little cheat sheet if I need my words. So I'm going to start with Pete, and that is a name, and it's the beginning of my sentence, so it needs to be an uppercase P, P-E-T-E, Pete. I need a finger space between every word, and I write the, which is one of our popcorn words, the. Oops, sorry, the. So I'm going to write it. I already know how to spell it. It's T-H-E. But we've now learned 2 lists of words, and I want you to make sure you're spelling all of those words that you should have learned by now correctly when you're writing. Pete the cat. Okay, and cat is also part of his name. So I'm going to do a finger space and cat. K-at, cat. Cat. K. Finger space. C says k. Cat. K-a. A says a. Cat. K-at. T says t. Okay. Pete the cat sang. Sang. S-A-ng. Sang. S-s-s. S says s. Sang. S-A-A. It's saying its name this time. Sang. S-A-n. N. N says n. Sang. S-A-n-g. G. G says g. We've learned that one too. Pete the cat sang, finger space, about. About. Okay, that's 2 syllables. Is my first syllable. You says so finger space. About. B-out. Bout. B. B says b. And those are syllables. About. So it's not 2 words. I don't do a finger space. It's just 2 syllables to help me sound out that whole word. About. B. Bout. B-ow. Ow. I'm watching my mouth, and I see the O. My mouth is doing the O. Bout. Ow. W. W says w. Bout. Bout. B-out. T. We've learned that one too. T says t. Now, like Miss Miller said, you want to keep rereading what you wrote so you don't forget, because we're writing long sentences and we're writing a lot. So we want to make sure that we don't forget what we're writing and that what we're writing makes sense. Pete the cat sang about his. Now, this is another popcorn word. So I'm going to go to my list I made. His. H-I-S. Pete the cat sang about his buttons. Buttons. Oops, I got to make sure I'm writing the right way on my lines. Buttons. But is my first syllable. B-a-t, but. B. B says b. But. B-a-a. U says But. B-a-t. T says t. We've learned that one. Okay, but was my first syllable. Tons is my second. It's not a space. It's just 2 syllables to sound out all of the sounds in that word. Tons. T-a-n-s. Tons. T again. T. Or t. U says Tons. T-a-n. N says n. Tons. T-a-n-s. S says. Okay, so my first sentence says, Pete the cat sang about his buttons. And I need a period at the end of my sentence, which goes on the grass line. So now we have our who and our what. Pete the cat is our who, and what was he doing was singing about his buttons. When did it happen? So we could just write, during the day, while Pete was outside, because then I have the when, during the day, the where, while Pete was outside. The how would be he felt groovy. That's going to be a long sentence. So the first word in my sentence is during. During. D-er-ing. Okay. I need a finger space, and it's the beginning of a new sentence because I have my period right here. So I need a capital D. D. D says D. Finger space. During. D. D-er. R says ing. Okay, I'm going to teach you guys a little trick. Whenever you hear the sound ing, it's these 3 brothers. They're 3 letters that go together. Whenever you hear the ing sound, it's the brothers, I-N-G. I call those the ing brothers, okay? So then I just know when I hear the ing sound, I'm going to write the letters I, N, and G, okay? During the, another popcorn word, T-H-E, during the day, day, d-a, day, d. D says d. Day, d-a. It's A saying its name again. Day, d-a, y. Y says y. Okay, during the day, Pete, and it's his name, so I need a finger space and then a capital P for his name. Pete. Okay, during the day, Pete was, popcorn word, W-A-S, was. Then I need, and I wasn't going to fit a finger space and W-A-S there, so I went to the next line. Was outside, out, 2 syllables, outside, out, 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 ow. I'm watching my mouth, it's doing the O. O says ah, but it's doing the ow, w, ow. W says what? Out. T. T says t. Outside. Side. Side. S says side. I. There's I saying its name instead of I. Side. Side. D. There's D. D says D. Okay. I'm going to reread. During that day, Pete was outside, and that's a popcorn word, A and D. And A-N-D. And he, it's a popcorn word, H-E. He, then I need a finger space, and I'm gonna write felt, felt, e-olt, felt. F, fun, or F says felt, e, E says felt, o, L says o, felt, o, T says t. Okay. During the day, Pete was outside and he felt groovy. Groovy. 2 syllables. The first syllable is grew. G-er-oo. So finger space. G. G says g. We've learned that one. Grew. G-er. R says grew. G-er-oo. I'm seeing my mouth do the O. And remember, when you hear the oo, like in boo, it's 2 O's. Grew. Grew. Okay, the second syllable is V. So groovy. V. V-E. V. V says V. E. V-E. E. E. Saying its name. Okay, then it's the end of my sentence, so I need a period. Okay, I'm going to read my whole thing. And I need to make sure I have my who, what, where, when, and how. Okay? So, Pete the cat sang about his buttons. I have my who, Pete the cat. My what was he doing? He was singing about his buttons. Now I need to make sure I have my where, when, and how. During the day, so there's my when. I have when, it was during the day. Pete was outside. There's my where. Where were the characters out? Outside. And he felt groovy. And that's my how. How are the characters feeling? Remember, you guys are writing about Pete the cat and his 4 groovy buttons. You're writing who the characters were, what the characters were doing, where the characters at, when did this happen, and how were the characters feeling. If you want to write something similar to mine, you're welcome to. If you want to write your own, come up with your own ideas about how you want to say things, you're welcome to do that too. Remember to keep reading what you've written at every time you write a new word, because it helps you remember that and make sure it makes sense, okay? Once you're done, you can go through and draw your picture and you can label if you want. The most important part is you get the writing on your page, and there's a lot of writing to do. All right, you guys, have fun.